You being the guide, what are questions that you think the average customer should ask their rancher just to verify that, hey, this is someone that I should trust and really buy my meat from for my family?
Sure. That's a wonderful question because I had it in my mind when we started the company, the questions we would be asked. And I was so far in left field because I've been in this industry my whole life. So I had so many thoughts about beef and ranching and I was very far in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And really most of our customers just want beef they can trust.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that there was a story behind it. They want to know the animals were taken care of well. They lived a quality life to be able to then put that product on their table so they can live a quality life.
Yes.
There's Jeff could probably hit on some actual questions as he handles more of the customer service side, questions that we get routinely. But that's kind of the way that I see the process.
Mm.
Yeah, we get a lot of the typical questions you would expect.
Yeah.
Are you grass finished? Are you regenerative? What I have found is that the answer to the question is not near as important as the fact that you answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
You make that human connection. Like I've had people, you should be grass finished. Are you? I said, we are not. Here's why. This is why it would not work in our model.
Mm.
But I will tell you, this is exactly how we do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, so is grass finished better? I'm like, it could be, but not for us. We are not set up for that. And where we live in the world is not set up for that.
Yeah.
Here's why. And the other thing is, luckily, we have smaller bundle boxes. Like you guys have seen the website.
Yeah.
We don't have a half beef entry point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to throw down $2,000 to try it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm like, hey, we have a first time offer code. Check it out. See if you like it. And they come back. Or sometimes they don't.
Mm.
But having that human connection seems more important than really even the answer to the question. But what we end up doing more than anything from the customer service side is actually combating misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mRNA thing, when that blew up this summer, how many emails and phone calls do we get? Hundreds.
Yes.
I mean, it was a lot.
Mm.
Do you treat your cattle with mRNA vaccines? And Kara wrote a very good blog post about it. And then people are like, well, you're not saying you won't do it. I'm like, well, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
mRNA vaccines in cows is not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I will acknowledge that guy, was he from Missouri? A legislator from Missouri that's like, we gave mRNA vaccines twice yesterday to my cows. I was like, bro, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
And if you did, you are in hot water with the USDA because there's no approvals.
Yeah.
As far as we know, there's nothing even close to being approved, and we're pretty connected in that space.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up combating disinformation more than anything and trying to shield the industry from some of its own issues. And we do that, we've had people that, hey, I work with such and such farm. Why should I switch to you? I'm like, don't. If you have a farm you like and they're in your region, use them.
Mm.
I mean, we've had some subscribers. There was a gentleman ordered a ton of beef for like a year out of California and was always Johnny on the spot. And then one day he's like, hey man, I'm going to cancel my subscription. Do you mind? I was like, no, I'm good. What's going on? I found a local guy. His beef's good. I'm going to switch to something more local. I was like, awesome, man. Great job.
Yeah.
You're not upset? No, I'm good. That's what it's for. Like, I don't need all the California business. You're good.
Yeah.
And that level of connection is something that a lot of people won't take.
Mm-hmm.
Or invest the time in. And frankly, a lot of ranchers and agriculturalists don't have the time to invest. Because if you're not at scale and you're not moving that amount of product that it's paying enough for you to take those calls, reply to those emails, you can't make it work.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing 20 head a year, the math isn't there. You have to be doing other things.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part when you get the hobbyists that respectfully probably do a great job, but they end up sometimes upsetting customers because there's not a connection. And then the whole direct to consumer rancher based model is turned off to that customer.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And Jeff, I think too, I feel like one of your gifts is the ability to just deliver some of these hard truths that people might not want to hear, but they should hear. And what I mean by that is one of the things that really struck me when you came on the show is you essentially said, look, I'm highly, highly pro connecting with your local farmer. But when we think about feeding the masses at scale, like there are aspects of the industrial beef industry right now that are necessary. And I thought that was a really interesting point that just stuck with me for a few days, where it's like, as much as I hope that everyone could just immediately move local, the space isn't ready for it yet. So maybe you could touch on that and elaborate on that, because I thought that was an amazing point from our first episode.
Yeah. Well, if we think about it, really, let's just look at Austin. What are you going to grow here that everybody can eat year round? Nothing. I mean, you're going to have seasonality. Like have you ever traveled in Europe? I traveled in Europe one time, and it was during asparagus season. I'm here to tell you that we had asparagus in gosh damn everything. It was asparagus soup. It was asparagus salad. It was everywhere because it was very seasonal. This is what's available right now. Okay, that works. But if you overlay the map of the U.S. over Europe, it's a significantly different geometric issue with pockets of population that are much harder to get to. So what do you do to feed those pockets? How many people are in Austin? I guess I don't know the population.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the average American consumer eats 78 pounds of beef a year. The average steer is going to produce about 450 pounds of beef. How many cattle do we need just to feed Austin? Yeah. I mean, it's a mathematical dilemma. I'm not saying it's not solvable, but on Steve's podcast this morning, I said, you've got to be careful if you rip the Band-Aid off that actually your arm falls off, because it's way worse than you thought. And there's a lot of people that want to, take a hard line approach, but if you have to take a hard line approach on that and you're in the Central Valley of California, you got a lot better chance. If you're in Western Minnesota, where I used to live, well, from October to May, you're going to be eating walleye and deer. Mm. And you're only going to do that for a couple weeks because you're going to run out. I mean, or, we're in Austin, right? Rogan's down the road somewhere. He's a hunter. I grew up hunting. How many elk do you think there are in the United States? Whole United States.
100,000?
It's like 1 million, I think, the last number I saw. Well, we harvest 600,000 cows a week nationally. I'm not saying it's not fixable, but the math and the scale at which we need to produce to sustain is exceptionally challenging. Mm. And while those 4 companies do control 85% of the market, they do a pretty solid job of making sure we're all, packed with enough nutrients we can have a conversation like this.